Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. People like me,
Cool.
Michelle Kane with Voice Matters, and Karen Swim of Solo PR Pro. Hi, Karen. How are you today?
Hey, Michelle, slightly hot and frazzled, but so glad to be here.
Forget hot girl summer. We're hot frazzles.
Yeah, when they said hot
Uh,
summer, I didn't take that literally. I was, you like me and all of us in this region of the country are under a heat dome, and it's so fun.
it's yeah, it's summer. Yeah, yeah. I just think about I'm not shoveling snow, so stay hydrated and keep going. But today we're going to have some fun. We're going to keep it light
Yeah.
because yeah, we're going to talk about how PR pros are portrayed on television and in the movies, the good, the cringe, and that downright hilarious. I'm sure our listeners have their favorites. Hopefully we'll touch on some of their favorites. Um, but yeah, we just thought this might be a fun thing to do because so often, they get us wrong, where we it becomes that meme of, what people think I do, what my parents think I do, what I really do. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're not just the party planner walking around being fabulous all the time. I love Samantha Jones, but yeah, no, not entirely.
You know, if I'm ever really categorized as fabulous. I know that many in our audience are able to pull that off. You are both professional and fabulous and
Yes.
fashionable and all of the things. I'm really good at my job.
Yeah, not so good at swatting about being fabulous about it. Well, speaking of, there's Absolutely Fabulous, which is the British show,
Yeah.
uh, created by Jennifer Saunders, and, I mean, who can forget Patsy, who loves her some vodka, and they would just bumble about PRing.
Yeah, this is interesting because her best friend is a fashion editor, correct?
Mhm.
And,
Yes.
this is, you know I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't spend my days worrying about, my weight and whether or not somebody from, that I'm gonna see is going to, and by the way, she did not have a weight issue, but
No.
yeah, it's definitely not the most realistic
Oh,
portrayal.
not one bit, not one bit, but if you're a fan of British comedy, it hit a lot of ridiculous sweet spots. Sweetie darling.
Yes, I do like British comedy. I really do, and I think it's always fun to watch how they approach,
Mm,
entertainment. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
not realistic, but fun.
Totally fun, totally and we were joking before we came on air about, Parks and Recreation, how that's not an outright PR show, but they do have elements of it, and I was thinking to myself, "Yeah, I don't know, should I include it?" And then I reminded myself that I will refer to it and, in my little town, if we have something, if a situation happens, I will say, "Oh, it's so Parks and Rec, like, you can't wait to hear about this."
Well, and their situations definitely align with many of the things that we do in our job. I
Yeah.
think it was the Kaboom episode. Was it the Kaboom in season 2, where they're dealing with this charitable organization, but on the other side dealing with something else? I thought that that was pretty realistic to
Yeah.
kind of the conundrums that we have in our jobs. And yes, we do. We partner with charitable organizations to get things done on behalf of our clients.
Yeah.
On the other side, sometimes we have to deal with other companies on behalf of our clients that are the evil people that are, and not necessarily evil because they're unethical, but
No.
because, they're doing things that we're not happy about.
Yeah.
Having to deal with multiple publics is something that they do in that show as well.
Mhm.
There was the episode where Leslie called the town hall meeting, and even her constant detractor was on her side, and she's like, wait, what just happened here? So, I mean, I find that relatable, and of course, they do it in a really sweet, fun way. So, I
Yeah.
think, they strike a good balance there of, you know, remembering that they're a comedy and it's
Yeah,
lighthearted, but also
yeah,
showing some realistic elements of our day to day.
yeah. There's a definite earnestness under the absurdity of the show, which I think is probably why it's so very popular. Yeah, yeah. And then we have the shows where we are the bad cop, like, in, The West Wing,
Yeah.
where, CJ Craig had to tell Josh to not comment on his lemonlyman.com message board, even though his fan base was misinterpreting his comments, and not only was it hilarious, if just Google the clip on YouTube with CJ, policing him on that, but we all nodded our heads, right? Of, "Oh, yeah, don't, client, please don't comment online. No, as much as you may want to,
Yeah.
don't."
How many of us have had to say, "Step away from the keyboard. Step away. No, you cannot contact the reporter after an interview. No, 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 no. No, please don't tweet that. Please don't.
No, no,
I need
no,
you to sit
no.
over here and just be quiet
Yeah,
and
yeah,
let me
no.
do my job."
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, no, you cannot blast the online reviewer, and, my clients are good. They know that. They know that, yes, you write the letter, you don't send it, get it out of our system, and then we'll think of the nice thing to say.
Yeah. Well, I like that particular example too, because as you noted, I mean, West Wing, great show, so well done. But it's realistic, even though it adds
Yeah,
the comedy and the drama to it. But it is realistic to kind of the things that we deal with in our job. And
yeah.
one of the things I love about PR, as it's portrayed in entertainment, is sometimes people say outrageous things that we can't say in our day to day. We may say it to each other just to be like, can't believe this happened. But, with clients, we're professional, we're calm, we're counseling, we're advocates. But, it
Yeah.
is fun to have somebody say the things that you think in your head, but you can't say out loud.
Yeah, it's completely cathartic, that is for sure.
Mhm.
Another one for me is, Alan Cummings' portrayal of Eli Gold on The Good Wife. I mean, he's part campaign manager, but he definitely is
Yeah.
part PR fixer,
Yes.
and yeah, there's an episode with the Wisconsin cheese board or something where something goes really bad with cheese, and
Yeah.
I it yeah, and they take it upon themselves to speak without prepared statements, and he about has an aneurysm but just the way he does it is just like, "Yes! Yes! That's yes! Exactly!"
He is a fantastic actor, and
Oh,
without words, his body movements and his facial expressions act for him. And so that was one of the most relatable things about his role to me too, is that I just really enjoyed that show and enjoyed the writing and enjoyed his
oh, yeah.
character. But his reactions are so dead on to the outrageous things that we deal with in our jobs. Like,
So true.
I mean, there is not one PR person in the audience, not one in our audience who has not had that moment where you felt like you were literally going to blow your stack.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and a lot of times too, in that similar vein, we're dealing with clients who are like, "Ugh, do I really have to say this statement? Do I?" Like you mentioned in Blue Bloods when we were prepping for this episode.
I would as ethical and, as, very Frank Reagan is very mission driven, his mission, I would never want him from for a client because he never does anything that you ask him to do, ever. He always does his own thing. No, I'm not gonna. No, I don't wanna say that. No, I disagree. No, I'm just gonna go over to the mayor's office. No, 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 could you not? I'm gonna just do my own press conference. I don't like what the DA said. No, 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 could
Oh,
you not do that? Like, please.
that's when you do the slow-mo. You want to tackle him. No. Oh my gosh. I think
Totally agree.
it's so good.
Well, and how could we, here's one. Thank You for Smoking, which was based on a book,
Yeah.
and so it's about a lobbyist, Nick Naylor. One of the lines from there was just like, No, no, this is not true. Nick Naylor says, "If you argue correctly, you're never wrong." It's like,
And isn't he saying that on career day at his kid's school or something?
yeah, and it's like, no, that's not how PR works. That's how people think PR works. If you say the right things, you're not
Yeah.
wrong. If you say it right, even though it's a crock of poo, it's okay.
Still
No,
be
no,
wrong. R No, yes, wrong is still wrong, people.
wrong is still
Although
wrong.
although that was a really entertaining movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and interesting dilemma too. I mean, and that's something I think that PR pros in real life do face, working for
Yeah,
clients, choosing to work with clients where you don't agree with their mission. I think as solo PR pros, we just don't do that. If you don't
right.
agree with the mission of a company, then you just don't go work for them. If you don't, believe in smoking, you're not going to go work for big tobacco. You're not going to take them on as a client.
Mhm.
So I love that about our particular, place in the PR landscape is that we do get to choose. But there are lots of people that work for agencies that have no control over the clients that that agency represents.
Right.
And so you don't get to choose your clients. You just have to do the work. Oh, I can't imagine. I don't know if they let you opt out of stuff if you find it egregious. Like, can you say, yeah, I don't want to do that. I
That's
don't think.
that's a very good question that I do not know if anyone out there can weigh in on that. Please,
Yeah.
please, we'd love to maybe discuss that someday. But it brings to mind that line from Mad Men. It's not really a PR centric topic, but it's when Peggy was taking issue with lack of feedback or praise from Don Draper, and he screams at her, "That's what it's for." It's like, okay, I get it, but
And by the way, people, because Mad Men always lands on a list of PR shows, they were an ad
an
agency.
agency. I know. I'm like, where was the PR
This
in
for
Mad
the younger
Men?
people in the audience, but for all of you other people out there who still do not know, which is the majority of non-PR people, what PR is, we are not an ad agency.
No,
Yes,
no.
sometimes PR pros can help with ad buy. Yes, we can help you with your content, but we are not ad agencies. That's not who we are. They're not the same thing.
Yeah, there were no PR people in Mad Men, as entertaining as it was. I marvel at the whole bar cart in the office atmosphere, thinking, "How did you guys get work done? What?" I keep my
Yeah,
poor mom, I keep looking at her, "This is your generation. How did you people accomplish anything?"
yeah. We've
But
traded bar charts for M&Ms and Cheerios, I think. And I
exactly.
think even those are gone now. Like, we don't do that anymore.
Right, right.
Go
Oh, the
home,
'60s.
find your own snacks.
That's right, it's what Amazon's for. But then there is the queen of all PR characters, the one we may live vicariously through, although maybe not with as much bloodshed or trouble, Scandal, which I'm sure many a PR pro knows is actually based on real life crisis manager Judy Smith,
Yeah,
which is
with a
very
lot of extra drama added to it. I have
yeah,
to tell you, the first few seasons of Scandal, I adored it. It was
yeah,
must-watch TV for me, and of course, who did not Olivia Pope just gave me life.
yeah.
So, I'm sorry if y'all didn't like her, but I loved that
Mhm,
character early on
mhm.
just because it was so freaking outrageous, but so incredibly like, yeah, you know,
Yes.
yes. It
Smart,
just
well done.
like it felt like amped up what PR people really do in our jobs. It was like amped up the height of it, and it's like the whole white hat thing. It just
Yeah.
I love that show.
Yeah, yeah. Couple of things always made me nervous. Her very thinly stemmed wine glasses. I had this anxiety about, do they survive in the dishwasher? How do you do this? And
That's
and
hilarious.
and as it did go on, it got super crazy and wild, and yet you still in the back of your mind thought, it's good to have a Huck in your corner. That's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. Yeah.
But no, it was I think what we can definitely say, there's definitely a thread through all of these shows. There's an intelligence about all of them, which I'm a nerd, so of course that appeals to me. You know, they're smart and they're savvy, and even though they blow a lot of things way out of proportion
Yes.
and beyond reality, but yeah, Scandal was definitely must watch appointment television for me too. It was very, very cool. Very cool. But,
Listen,
yeah.
I hope that, you guys we haven't even talked about, like, Wag the Dog, which gets overlooked and hit a little too close to reality for a lot of people when that came out
Yeah,
because it was, during the whole Clinton, Lewinsky
administration.
kind of thing,
Yeah,
and there were things going on in the world that sort of mirrored what happened, and
yeah,
so, yeah, I hopefully
yeah,
we do some stuff that you might wanna be like, "Oh, you know what? I should go stream that. I
yeah.
should I should check that out because summer is that kinda season." Oh,
Oh,
and what about we didn't talk about Flack, which I remember when that came out, a lot of people instantly hated. Um,
which could possibly
I
be what.
did not relate in one at all to that whole toxic work environment,
Yeah,
and the PR per the main, character whose name what was her name? Lorna? Rita? I don't know.
I have to cop,
She
I
was
didn't
a hot
watch it
mess.
either. Yeah, I know it was Anna Paquin was the actress,
Yeah.
um, but,
She's a whole hot mess. Just a whole not that PR people can't be a hot mess
oh,
because 'cause
no,
we're
no,
human beings, but she was a whole hot mess, and I couldn't even take joy in all of that, but that work environment was ick to me. I'm
yeah,
like, "Ew, this is gross."
yeah.
But, again, I never worked in an agency, and so maybe there were shades of accuracy about that environment.
I'm sure there may be. I mean, my time in an agency was certainly not like that, but I know that, we could have been a unicorn.
Wow, I love that Chip is popping in and doing a drive-by, today. Hey,
Some
Chip.
intel.
He worked in politics in DC back in the day when Wag the Dog came out, and so it's interesting to hear that wasn't far off the mark,
Yeah.
that there were some shades of truth in that movie.
Our invasion of Grenada comes to mind during the Reagan administration.
This is true.
I was too young to really have my finger on the pulse of I was too young at one time. Anyway, to realize what could you be distracting from? Did that jive with
Yeah,
Iran-Contra? Not
yeah,
sure, but I just remember it being the topic of a lot of late night jokes of, "Grenada? Why do we invade Grenada?"
yeah. So, I think that there's so many more shows that we didn't cover, and if you guys have great examples or terrible examples that are just super fun, share them with us. And we didn't even talk about PR and books in a non-educational
Yeah,
professional development type way, but are
yeah.
there any PR characters in books? I None are coming to mind for me, but if you know of books that portray our profession, drop us a note and let us know. We love to put that on our reading list and then
Yeah.
share it with our listeners because we read too.
Or or if there aren't, maybe we should write one.
Ooh.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we have nothing else to do.
I have a colleague that says when she's essentially gonna do, like, her version of the burn book when she retires from PR, and I am so here for it.
I I always joke that in my workplaces that I've worked in, it is ripe of ideas for another version of The Office.
Yeah.
That's already been done, but I'm like, "That's
If
going in
I
the
did,
sitcom."
I think I would do a comic book series about PR. I totally
Ooh,
would.
I like that. But yeah, I mean, we hope you've giggled along with us today. It's just a nice thing to do on a hot June day. So please do hit us up at soloprpro.com and let us know your thoughts. We want to hear what your favorites are. And until next time, thanks for listening to That Solo Life.